Hey folks, my name is Brian and you are watching Survival on Purpose. Thanks for joining me today here in the mosquito-infested wilds of my backyard. This video is going to be the third installment in kind of a little mini series that has evolved, probably the final installment. Sorry, I'm really getting torn up by mosquitoes. I've got, by the way, a little citronella candle here. Not really doing a whole lot. So anyway, the way this thing kind of got started, I decided to test the commonly accepted principle that you need to punch a hole in a char tin in order to make char. I kind of questioned things and thought it'd be a good idea to go ahead and find out why everybody says that. You got to let the gases escape, and that makes sense. But I thought I would give it a shot anyway and see what happens. So I'll put a link to that video below if you're interested in watching it. But bottom line, I found out that in the three tins that I chose to use, I used an Altoid tin a couple times, and with and without a hole, they both worked fine. And granted, they have enough of a gap at the hinges and stuff that stuff can escape, gases can escape. Then I used a little candy tin with a slip-on lid that actually the gases escaped around the lid, so it worked fine. So I kind of left it at that, and had some pretty good comments about that, and kind of made me actually rethink my position and kind of second guess myself. So I decided to get a really tight fitting tin, which I did, and put some char in it, and I'll put a link to that video below too, because it was a little more dramatic. But it was just still a slip-on lid. So today I want to take it to the one more step, hopefully the final step, I think, and I have a daisy screw. It's a lid that actually screws on, so this sucker's not slipping off. What happened in the last video, the second in the series, the lid popped off and it was reasonably dramatic. But I had a couple people say they use these screw-on lids for making char and poke a hole in it, and as it turns out, I think you do need to have a hole for the gases to escape and expand, just because obviously basic physics, when you heat something it expands. But just because I had a couple people request to see this, and I just thought it'd be cool, we're going to go ahead and use this screw-on tin here to try to make some char, and move the camera way back and hide behind a tree, and hopefully it won't tear my camera up if it's too dramatic. I don't know how big it's going to be. Stick with me and we'll find out. Okay, just like before, I'm going to use some denim, and actually this last time when we had the little bit of drama there, it didn't have time to char. So, but we're going to just for consistency's sake, we'll put some denim in there. We'll screw this lid on pretty tightly, and then we'll sit it on top of the stove and let it get hot and see what happens. And this stove is actually a little bigger than the tin, so we're going to kind of set it off to the side here. But when I do that, I'm going to move the camera back and kind of get behind a tree. So let me do that now. So we're going to let this thing cool off for a minute. See the label kind of bubble up there. I suspect that what possibly happened is there's enough gap here in these threads for the gas, because when it was flaming up I couldn't really tell if that was the label or if it was the gases coming out that were burning, because they'll burn also. They'll actually have a little flame. Sometimes smoke, sometimes a little flame comes out the hole if you do punch a hole. And that's one of the other reasons for the hole, is so you can actually see when it stops. Then you know your char, theoretically, you know your char is finished. Once it quits smoking or you know, burning coming out of your hole. So that's a good indicator. Another reason for it. Anyway, we're going to take this off, let it cool off, because it's real hot right now, and open it up. But I wanted to look at the tin itself. Is not really even expanded. A little bit. There's a little bit of expansion goes on the bottom here, on the bottom, but the other one that had just a push-on tight lid, it actually bulged out, and you can see it on the camera. You can see it on the stove kind of rising up a little bit as the bottom was bowing out. And this one did not appear to do that, which would lead me to believe that there was enough of a gap in the threads there for the gas to escape. But again, it's pretty hot right now. Okay, it's real hot right now. So we're gonna let it cool off for a minute and get back. Okay, it's cool to the touch now. So go ahead and open this thing up and see if we have char. If we have char, and we do. So therefore we know the charring process took place. We know there was whatever gases were created must have escaped from around the threads, because this thing is it was pretty tight. I had it cranked down pretty tightly, but apparently it just doesn't seal completely. It doesn't seal as well as a push-on lid. So okay, well, that was kind of anticlimactic. We didn't have any sorts of fireworks at all, which I was really surprised, because the last time, like I said, I just had a push-on lid, pushed on pretty tightly though, and it held enough so that the metal expanded out of the bottom before the lid, and the lid blew off, and it was pretty cool. So I really was expecting a lot more out of this, but the last time did not get char, so what we really got out of this was char. Apparently the little pellet tins, Craftsman pellet tins, make a really good char tin. I would still say it's probably a good idea, after these experiments we've done, just to poke a little hole in it, punch a little hole in it. It definitely it's going to give you an indicator of when the charring process is done. Probably now that the label's gone, you'd be able to see the smoke or char coming out around the rim, but you really don't know that until you try it, and it could be dangerous trying it the first time. If it did seal very well, I'm sure something would have happened. And so for safety's sake, and just for the convenience sake also, for having a way to check and see, I would say punch a hole in it. So that's going to conclude, by the way, this little mini series. I wasn't planning on doing this third one, but I had some requests to see what would happen. So I was kind of curious myself, thought it'd be pretty cool. It wasn't. It was pretty boring, but we did learn something. Hopefully I learned something. I hope you did. And that's kind of one of the purposes here, for learning together. So as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing to Survival on Purpose channel. Click the thumbs up down below if you like it. Let your friends know if you think they will. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my Amazon store below. I appreciate all your help. Once again, my name is Brian. You're watching Survival on Purpose. Remember, survival's not an accident, so be prepared. See you next time.